It's Sonia Barrett once again, back for another chit chat moment. Well, today I'd like to address how to embrace the unknown, the power of the unpredictable. And everybody out there is familiar with what it feels like to deal with the unknown, the unpredictable. And what I have come to realize anyway over all these years is that there is so much power, there's tremendous power in the unknown. The challenge that we have is our programming is of predictability. We want everything to be predictable. We want to know how everything is going to happen, when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. And what happens with that is we actually can do ourselves a disservice. And how is that possible? Well, because when everything is so predictable, well, you end up living your life based on a series of patterns, just the same patterns over and over and over. You don't even realize it. And a good part of why that happens is because what does the brain do? The brain looks for patterns. It looks for the familiar. And anything that looks similar might not be exactly the same, but there has to be some similarity that it assesses, like a computer, and then you gravitate somehow to the same sort of responses, the same sort of behavior. Hence, we attract the same experiences over and over again in different ways. So I think this is something that is absolutely crucial for us to examine, for us to really understand, because we become our own saboteurs, right? We want to know, we've got to make it predictable. And it takes us away from flow. It takes us away from really entering other potentials, other possibilities. We sort of trap ourselves because we want to play it safe. We want to be part of a safe experience. Again, it wandering into the unknown, regardless of what it is that you're dealing with. When you have no clue how it's going to turn out, what do you spend your time doing? You spend your time living in the past and in the future. You come up with scenarios of the future based on your information from past experiences. And so, how can you then really interact and experience expansive experiences, really enter into an expansive life if it's sort of this boomerang effect where you're constantly going back to the same story, on and on and on. And you look at your money experience, you look at your relationship experience. For some people, those are two experiences that plague them all their life. You're plagued by the same money situations, the same relationship situations, and so many other conditions. Yes, job, the same thing over and over. Well, it's like it's a loop, and you get caught in that loop, and all you can see is that something is being done to you. Something is being done to you. Somebody is doing something to you, or you have bad luck. You just can't seem to see why. Well, the thought process is the same. You're thinking and operating the same way. And if you tell me, well, I try to be positive, or I have, what is it? I've taken, some self-help class or read a book, but what you have is just memorized concepts. You don't really have the formula in the sense of realizing that you are creating the same pattern over and over again, and you're stuck there. So the unknown, you have to first open your mind to the unknown, to being okay with not always knowing exactly how things are going to work out, because the mere fact that you're wanting to know exactly how it's going to work out takes you back to the same patterns again, because you're going to draw from your previous experiences, or your brain is going to draw from it based on your thinking, going to draw from the same experiences. And even though you may have shades of it being a bit different, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it may last for a little while and somehow it boomerangs back again. You're doing well for a while, things are going good, and then suddenly, boom, you go right back to the same old experience again. And that is based on those patterns, meaning that you never really shifted. And again, because of your fear of not knowing, you sort of close the door on some other potential, some other possibilities that are not based on restriction. So you have to give yourself permission then to and trust that more expansive part of yourself, that greater part of yourself, that it knows exactly what is around the corner, what's going on. And so once you begin to trust that, once you begin to know that, then you can begin to surrender a little bit more. You can begin to let go to that. And let's face it, most of the time when we attempt to control things, it doesn't really always work anyway. You just run out of options after a while, because what are we doing? We're like a hamster on a wheel, going about life in a desperate manner. So you're on this wheel and you're doing the same thing. You're pulling everything out of your hat, every option that you think you have, based on what? Based on your library of old experiences. You're putting those experiences together to try to come up with a solution. And most often what ends up happening is, when the situation is like really resolved, and I know I've talked to other people too in terms of money, once they back away and just let it go, almost throw their hands up, that's when things work out. And most often it comes from areas and people and situations that you had no idea about, because what has gone on with you, you have fixed your mind on three or four ways that this could possibly happen. So you have become fixated on these are the only ways. And so when you are looking for things to work out, happen that way, and then they don't, you don't understand it. Why doesn't it always happen that way? The three or four ways that you have designated in your mind, because it's the known, why doesn't it always happen that way? Because that's just not, those options don't aren't able to supply the solution. The solution is going to come from something else, someplace else. But then when you lock in so heavily on what you think is the known, you don't give any room or permission or pathway for other unknown possibilities to show up. You leave no room for it. So you spin your wheels all the time trying to figure it out, and you get caught in patterns. And I know about that. I believe me, I know. You get caught in patterns with one of the main things, yes, bills. The same thing happens over and over and over. And I know I've talked to people in the past, and I know, yes, they get caught in a pattern of not being able to pay their rent. And they just can't figure out, no matter what I do, I just can't. Every time, every month rolls around, and I'm having a challenge paying my rent. It's because you're caught in a loop. There's a pattern there, and your brain, again, go look it up. Your brain looks for patterns. It operates based on patterns. It operates based on the familiar. And since you like the predictable, the predictable is the familiar. So you see what I'm saying? So it just keeps looping back to the familiar. It shows it to you in different ways, but it just keeps looping back to the familiar. And you live like that for 10, 15, 20 years sometimes, and you just can't seem to get out of it. And so that is the reason why it is so important too that we also do different things, that we're not doing the same thing all the time, and we're not even taking the same route all the time, because you have to create new neural pathways in your brain. You have to give your brain new pathways, new information, new libraries, new options. You have to put that information in there so that there is latitude for you in all facets of your life. So the unknown is very powerful. It's very, very powerful because it can take you into some incredible, expansive possibilities. And so is the unpredictable, the things that sometimes cannot be predicted. You don't want to be so completely predictable in your life, because yes, that does get boring, because you're going to be looping once again. It's all predictable, same thing, same all the time. And also the brain does require something new. And part of why this is another part why this is so important is because even with seniors, they've shown studies that show when seniors, as the term we use, seniors, which is meant for older people, when they are engaged in new experiences, they actually live longer. Their brain is charged up. It's like their brain and their body gets the message that we are open to doing more, to living, to experiencing, to learning, to knowing. But if you're stuck in the predictable all the time, where is there room for to learn something new or to discover something new? And it all impacts the very hormones that course through our bodies. It impacts everything about who we are, and whether we age rapidly or whether we don't age rapidly, or whether our heart is super overworked from what? From being in survival mode all the time. The heart needs to work less, but your heart work a lot more because of the stress a lot of times of what? Of looking for the predictable, the known, that which is comfortable. And then you can take that even further, and you understand why religion works so well for many people, because they want something packaged, something predictable, something that they can count on, something safe, something secure. That's what they want. And so religion provides that for them. They tell them exactly what from A to Z, and you go, oh, okay, great. Now I feel much better now, because I can count on this. I have this understanding and I can count on it. But and I'm not getting off the subject, but any religion, any kind of spiritual practice that tells you that you are restricted to operating only within the construct of the ideas that have been presented to you by that organization, you need to question that, because that means they're putting limitation on you and what's possible for you, and you are stuck in someone else's construct of limitations. And I know, again, I'll get somebody responding to to this again about religion or about what we, again, if you feel it's working for you, then by all means do it. What I'm saying is for people who are ready to be incredibly expansive and to go beyond the limitations that they've been living by and the limitations that have been imposed on our minds by all these various systems in place. So if that's, you know who it's for, but don't get upset with me. If you get upset with me, then you need to ask yourself why. Because if you're secure in what you believe, then I cannot upset you. I cannot upset you. You go on ahead and do what you need to do. And if you listen to all of it and you decide to click dislike, then you still need to ask yourself, why was that necessary for me to do that? What was triggered in me? Why I needed to listen to the whole thing and click dislike. This, no matter who you are never doing anything randomly. So even if you're not big on anything I'm saying, the fact that you watched it, there's something there for you. There's a part of you that's looking for something else. So there are no mistakes. No mistakes. We do what we do when we do it, and some of it are harsh lessons and we learn, but not playing it safe. That's what I'm saying to you. Not playing it safe and relying solely on all of the recorded previous experiences in your past. You're relying on that survival part of yourself that looks for reasons to be on guard and to gravitate only to what is predictable and certain. So I hope that provides some food for someone who is listening. And certainly, I could go on and on with this subject because there's so many layers and I can't always address obviously everything. It's, sometimes 15 or 20 minutes that I'm talking on YouTube, but I really wanted to put that one out there. So you can stop beating yourself up once again on, knowing, gotta know, oh, and fear of the unpredictable. So also, by the time you see this, maybe it might be over, but there is a meditation webinar that will be going on, tomorrow, which will be May 7th, I believe, and 8th. So Saturday and Sunday, it's a webinar, it's online. There is still time to participate in that. And also do check out the daily reboot, subscribe on therealsoniabarrett.com. It's a daily reboot. You will see the information there. And anything else that you want to find out, just go to therealsoniabarrett.com and check out events. And if you have a question, just go ahead and send me an email. Contact information is there, therealsoniabarrett.com. Oh, and another important thing, do check out my podcast, Sonia Unplugged, right? So it's Sonia Unplugged. It's on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher, and also on the website, soniaunplugged.com. And I believe I have covered everything. So I look forward to your comments once again, and just continue to embrace you and live life as limitless as possible. All right, until next time. See ya.